The sun was barely rising over Maplewood Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood where the lawns were trimmed like green velvet carpets and every porch light flickered off in perfect synchronization. To the casual eye, it looked like paradise. But beneath the neatly painted fences and manicured gardens lurked an endless stream of conflicts, all orchestrated by one self-proclaimed enforcer of rules, Karen Thompson, the HOA president. Across the street lived Emily Harper, a former nurse who had been medically retired after a serious accident left her with PTSD and mobility issues. Despite her challenges, Emily never allowed her spirit to be broken, and she carried herself with quiet dignity. Her lifeline in daily life was Daisy, a golden retriever service dog trained not only to guide her, but to sense her panic attacks before they spiraled out of control. To Emily, Daisy wasn't just a pet. She was her freedom, her stability, and her strength wrapped in soft golden fur. But to Karen, Daisy was an eyesore, a nuisance, and a violation waiting to happen. It all began one warm Saturday morning when Emily walked Daisy around the neighborhood loop. The sidewalks were buzzing with weekend joggers and kids on bikes. Emily kept Daisy close, her harness snug against her palm. Daisy trotted with perfect discipline, her bright vest reading, "Service dog, do not pet." Karen stood at the edge of her driveway, arms folded, lips pursed into the same disapproving scowl she reserved for anyone who dared defy her unwritten rules. "Emily," she called, her voice slicing through the air like the snap of a ruler. "That animal of yours is not allowed on HOA property without prior approval." Emily sighed, already bracing for the confrontation. "Karen, Daisy is a federally protected service dog. She has the right to accompany me anywhere in public." Karen scoffed, taking a deliberate step forward. "This is private property, and as HOA president, I have the authority to decide what's appropriate here. And frankly, a big shedding mutt is not appropriate." Several neighbors glanced over from their driveways, uneasy but silent. They had seen Karen's reign of intimidation before, and weren't eager to be her next targets. Emily tried to remain calm, reminding herself that raising her voice would only escalate things. "Daisy isn't just a dog," she explained softly. "She's trained. She's my medical support. Please, Karen, just let it be." But Karen wasn't interested in compassion. She was interested in control. Over the next few weeks, her vendetta against Emily and Daisy escalated. First came the warning letters. Violation. Unauthorized animal on common grounds. Then came the fines. $200 per incident of pet defacement. And then came the harassment. Karen snapping photos of Emily walking Daisy, sending them to the HOA board and whispering to other neighbors about dog smells and health hazards. Emily held her ground, filing appeals and citing federal ADA law, but the stress weighed heavily on her. Each letter that arrived in her mailbox made her chest tighten a little more, and each glare from Karen made her feel smaller, even when Daisy pressed against her leg for reassurance. The breaking point came one afternoon when Emily was gardening in her front yard. Daisy lay beside her, alert but calm, panting in the shade. Karen appeared again, this time with a spray bottle of weed killer clutched in her hand. "I told you that thing doesn't belong here," Karen snapped before Emily could react. With a swift motion, she sprayed the bottle in Daisy's direction. Daisy yelped and froze, her body trembling as the mist hit her fur. Emily gasped, rushing forward to shield her dog. "What are you doing?" she cried, her voice shaking. Karen's eyes flashed with self-righteous fury. "I'm enforcing the rules. Animals are pests and pests need to be removed." The neighbors across the street dropped their rakes and watering cans, staring in horror. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Emily pulled Daisy into her arms, checking her fur and eyes, her heart racing with panic. Daisy whimpered but stayed by her side, her training keeping her grounded even in fear. Emily's trembling hands dialed 911. "Yes, I need the police," she said, her voice breaking. "My service dog was just attacked by my HOA president." The minutes felt like hours, but soon the flashing lights of a police cruiser cut across the quiet cul-de-sac. Two officers stepped out, their expressions firm. Emily held Daisy close, tears streaking her face. Karen, meanwhile, stood tall, arms crossed, confident she had done nothing wrong. "Finally," she huffed. "You're here. Arrest this woman for keeping an unapproved animal." But the officers didn't move toward Emily. Instead, one knelt beside Daisy, speaking gently as he assessed the situation. "Ma'am, is this your service dog?" "Yes," Emily whispered, clutching Daisy's harness. "She helps me with my disability." Karen sprayed her with chemicals. The officer's jaw tightened. He rose slowly, turning to Karen with a gravity that silenced the murmuring neighbors. "Ma'am," he said sternly, "do you understand that interfering with a service dog is a federal crime?" The words sliced through the air, heavier than anything Emily had ever heard. For the first time, Karen's confident mask cracked. Her face paled, her mouth opened, then shut again, as if her brain was scrambling to catch up with the reality she'd just been handed. The officer continued, his voice unwavering. "Service dogs are protected under federal law. Any harm, harassment, or interference is punishable by severe fines and potential jail time. What you just did wasn't enforcing HOA rules, it was criminal." The neighbors gasped, whispers rippling through the crowd. Emily clung to Daisy, who licked her trembling hand as if to reassure her. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt the weight shift. The power was no longer in Karen's hands. It was in the truth. Karen stammered, I didn't know." But the officer cut her off. "Ignorance is not an excuse. You need to come with us." As the second officer stepped forward with handcuffs, Karen's bravado crumbled into wide-eyed disbelief. And for the first time in Maplewood Estates, the iron-fisted HOA president looked very small. The crowd that had gathered outside stood frozen in silence as the officers escorted Karen toward the patrol car. Her protests rang through the cul-de-sac. "This is a misunderstanding. You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." But no one stepped forward to defend her. For years she had ruled Maplewood Estates through intimidation, turning neighbor against neighbor. But now her power seemed to vanish with every step she took toward the flashing red and blue lights. Emily, still kneeling beside Daisy, let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Daisy pressed against her, calm and steady, her eyes focused only on Emily, as if to remind her that she wasn't alone. One of the officers, noticing Emily's trembling hands, crouched beside her. "Ma'am, we're going to file a full report. Do you need medical attention for your dog?" Emily shook her head. "She's shaken, but I think she's okay. I'll take her to the vet to be sure." The officer nodded and handed Emily a card. "Here's my contact information. Please keep all vet records and receipts. What happened here is serious, and there will be follow-up." For the first time in weeks, Emily felt like someone was truly listening, someone who wasn't dismissing her or labeling Daisy as a problem. As the officers drove Karen away, whispers rippled through the neighborhood. Mrs. Reynolds from next door whispered, "I can't believe she actually sprayed the poor dog." Mr. Carson muttered, "She's been pushing people around for years. It was bound to catch up with her." Emily stood slowly, Daisy at her side, and for the first time, the stares of her neighbors didn't feel judgmental. They felt sympathetic, even supportive. That evening, Emily sat in her living room, Daisy curled at her feet, the quiet hum of the air conditioner filling the silence. Her phone buzzed endlessly with messages from neighbors. Some offered apologies for not speaking up sooner, others asked if Daisy was okay, and a few even admitted they had been fined or threatened by Karen too, but had been too afraid to challenge her. Emily realized she wasn't just fighting for herself. She had unknowingly opened a door for others to step out of fear. The following days brought a whirlwind of events. Karen was released on bail but faced charges of animal cruelty and interference with a service animal. The news spread quickly, both within the neighborhood and beyond. Local reporters picked up the story, their headlines reading, "HOA President Arrested After Attacking Service Dog." Cameras rolled as Emily, with Daisy sitting calmly at her side, gave a short statement outside her home. "Daisy is not just a dog," she said softly but firmly. "She's my medical support, my partner, and my lifeline. No one should ever have to fear losing their freedom or their safety because someone chooses control over compassion." The clip went viral, and support poured in from across the community and even outside the state. Strangers sent messages of encouragement, veterans shared their own experiences with service dogs, and disability advocates rallied behind Emily, calling for stronger protections against HOA overreach. Meanwhile, Karen's world crumbled. At the next HOA board meeting, which Emily reluctantly attended at the urging of her neighbors, the atmosphere was tense. The usual rigid order of agendas and motions was replaced with a sense of reckoning. Board members sat stiffly, avoiding eye contact while residents filled the room to capacity, some even standing along the back wall. When Karen walked in, flanked by her attorney, the room fell silent. Her once commanding presence was gone. She looked smaller, weighed down by the stares of those she had once dominated. The board president, a man who had often been swayed by Karen's iron grip, cleared his throat. "Due to recent events, we must vote on whether Ms. Thompson will remain on the HOA board." The vote was swift and unanimous. Karen was removed from her position, her name struck from the records. A murmur of relief spread through the crowd, and for the first time, Maplewood Estates felt lighter. But the battle wasn't entirely over. Karen still faced her court case, and Emily was determined to see it through, not out of vengeance, but to ensure accountability. In court, Emily sat with Daisy at her side, her attorney guiding her through the process. Karen's defense argued ignorance, claiming she hadn't understood Daisy was a service dog. But the evidence, the vest, the witnesses, the police report, was undeniable. When Emily took the stand, her voice shook at first but steadied as she spoke about the importance of Daisy in her life. "When I have panic attacks, Daisy grounds me. When I feel unsafe, she helps me regain control. She isn't optional. She's essential. And when someone attacks her, they're attacking me." The courtroom was silent, every word landing with weight. The judge's ruling was clear. Karen was guilty of interfering with a service animal, a federal offense. She was sentenced to community service, fined heavily, and ordered to attend sensitivity training about disability rights. The relief in Emily's chest was indescribable, not because Karen had been punished, but because the law had recognized her struggle and affirmed her dignity. Over time, Maplewood Estates began to heal. Without Karen's constant surveillance and harassment, neighbors grew closer. Block parties returned, children played freely on the sidewalks, and Emily found herself invited to gatherings she had once avoided. People no longer saw Daisy as a violation, but as a hero. Kids asked polite questions about service dogs, and parents thanked Emily for teaching them empathy. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of gold and lavender, Emily sat on her porch with Daisy resting her head on her lap. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, carrying laughter from across the street where families mingled. Emily stroked Daisy's fur and whispered, "We did it, girl. We made it through." Daisy wagged her tail softly, her eyes full of quiet understanding. Emily knew the scars of what had happened would never fully fade, but she also knew something powerful had grown in their place: strength, unity, and hope. What Karen had tried to break had only made Emily stronger. And now, Maplewood Estates was no longer just a neighborhood with perfect lawns and painted fences. It was a community, built on the courage of one woman and her loyal service dog. Please subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon for latest uploads.